Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. You know, recently something happened that made me reconsider all the gear stuff I have, and sometimes you gotta force your hand to think about things a little different. And it had to be with a bunch of bills. Now, I have the money to cover it, but it got me thinking. I have about $10,000 in bills coming up for medical stuff, school tuition, tax stuff, just a bunch of things that have come up. Right, I owed about $10,000 to $11,000 out of my pocket in the next 30 to 45 days. Hockey stuff, other things that are kind of like outside of typical bills. I know some of those things fall in typical bills, but it got me thinking, you know, all the gear I have sitting there, you add it up, it's like, well, that covers probably 2/3 of it. And I got to thinking, how bare bones could I go? How bare bones could you go and still make really, really good images? And so today I want to talk to you about this camera right here. This is the Nikon D70. This camera was gifted to me from a friend, an internet friend, if you will. We talk all the time. This was his dad's old camera, and he gave it to me with like a macro lens, a standard like zoom lens, or it's not kit, but the zoom lens, and the 51.8 D lens, and I bought the 28 D lens some time ago. So I have a handful of lenses for it. Now, I believe this camera is a 6 megapixel, if it's wrong, I'll put it on the screen, CCD APS-C size sensor, 6 megapixel. And I think you can buy these off of MPB right now for around $35. And so I decided to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to give it a real shot. I throw the 28 f2.8 on there because with the crop factor, it's like 42 millimeters, and that's more workable on a day in, day out basis versus the 50, which is more like 75 millimeters. And I started shooting with it. And I also got this flash from him right here, this Nikon Speedlight SB600. And so I've been throwing this on top of the camera and having some fun with it. I also throw the Speedlight on top of my Nikon FE2 and also the Nikon cameras that, the digital cameras that I have as well. And I'm having some fun with it. What's interesting is that looking through an OVF is great. I've always loved that. You can't really tell your exposure. There is no live view on this as far as I know, and the screen is super, super small. I don't know if you guys can see how small the screen is right there, but it's a really, really small screen, and so this does not give you a lot of confidence. The screen's poor quality, it's super small, but everything works really well on it. The autofocus is not bad. I wouldn't say it's good for tracking, but AFS for sure, you can let it rip, and it's got all the controls, and ergonomically it feels really good. It's got exposure compensation on the top, it's got metering mode on top, a little top screen to see your what's going on. All the buttons on the side, you know, ISO, white balance. You can change things, bracketing, drive mode right there. It takes the old school, what is it called, compact flash cards, which I have a reader for. And I've just been having a lot of fun with it. And the results that I showed you in the beginning of this video are from that. And it's concluded something to me. First of all, you don't need a lot to have fun. Second, I've always had a hankering for CCD sensors. I had it in Olympus XZ1. I've played with a Leica M9. I had an M8 at some point. Those are both CCD sensors. And I've always thought that they had a more, I don't know, just a richer tone to the colors and a more, how do you say, filmic type of feel to it. Now, of course, there's trade-offs with that. You know, CCD sensors are really bad at shadow recovery and we obviously don't do video in this, and high ISO noise is terrible. But if you are in normal daylight and get the exposure right, or you have a flash to light your subject, I really like the colors a lot. They have a really good, nice organic feel to them. And so I guess my question to you is that if you're just taking regular photos, bopping around the house, would you have a lot more fun with a $35 camera? Just taking photos, knowing that if you lost it, like, it doesn't really matter, that you can get great images that you actually like out of it, versus like your $3,000, $4,000 camera. You don't need maybe that $3,000, $4,000 camera if you're just doing that. Now, if you're doing sports, action, wildlife, or video, obviously this wouldn't work for you. But if you're just documenting, you know, this takes the old school battery that every Nikon camera has, this thing right here. It takes the f-mount lenses, which everybody has, you know, a billion of these things. Like, and the f-mount was forever in existence, right? It's on my FE2 camera. I actually think this is really good, and I'll tell you, there's something about that CCD sensor that digital cameras today with their CMOS sensors don't seem to have. I actually really enjoy it. So I've been playing with this. I'm going to play with it a bit more. And again, these images I showed you guys were not anything crazy, but I wanted to show them to you, and kind of encourage you guys to maybe go have some fun and experiment with older cameras like this. You know, if you can find yourself like an old full-frame CCD sensor, or even something like this APS-C sensor in good shape for 35 bucks, why wouldn't you, right? Especially if you're a Nikon shooter. Go experiment and have some fun with this. I guess the question for me is, what gear do I want to sell off to pay for some of these bills, and what gear do I want to keep? That is the question. And oh, by the way, this video is testing a lens as well, which we'll talk about in a future video. This lens is making the rounds around the internet, so I will not be the first one on this, but I'm doing some testing before I bring it out to you guys. All right, guys, I appreciate you watching this. Just wanted to give you some inspiration to not necessarily lust after the most expensive gear, but maybe find something fun that you like, and maybe having cheap gear ticks the boxes for you so that you're not so concerned about, you know, keeping it. I mean, if this gets banged around, who cares? Maybe cheap gear is something that might be interesting to you as well. And this thing's super well built. I mean, really, it is. I mean, it's got pop-up flash on it. All right, done rambling. See you guys in the next one.